Hello everyone, this is Carla and welcome back to the studio and thank you for joining me for another episode of Throwback Thursday. So since we're in this week between Christmas and New Year's, I thought I would bring in 3 different stamp sets to create cards of 3 of my favorite birds. So we're going to create a card featuring a blue jay, an owl, and a cardinal. So for my first card, the one we're going to do for a blue jay, we're going to be using the Joyful Season photopolymer stamp set. And for my cardstock pieces, I have a piece of Smoky Slate. This measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of the Winter Frost Specialty Designer Series paper. This measures 5 by 3 3/4, and this is the pack of the paper. It has 2 different sheets that have some of the silver foiling, and then the rest of them are just prints with snowflakes, and the colors in here are like Bermuda Bay, Coastal Cabana, Island Indigo, Pool Party, Smoky Slate, and Whisper White. So this has a lot of the aquas and the white and the gray in it. So that's where that designer series paper came from. I also have a piece of Coastal Cabana. This measures 4 5/8 by 3 3/8. And then I have a piece of basic white that measures 4.5 by 3 1/4. So to start off, I'm going to take my card base and I'm going to fold and I'm going to burnish this. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in my designer series paper and I'm going to use my Tombow the Tombow multi glue. This is this glue right here, and I like to put it in one of these fine tip glue bottles, which I got from Amazon, and I have a link for it in the description of this video. I like it in this because for this glue you don't need a lot, and I find that I get a really nice thin stream of glue when I use this bottle. And with this glue, because there is a latex in it, you don't need a whole lot of it to have it stick really well. So for this piece, I'm going to put this down at an angle, like so. Okay, and I'll set that aside. And then I'm going to, let me close this up. And then I'm going to bring in my piece of basic white. And I have my stamps here. And I'm going to, the colors of ink that I'm going to use for this project, I'm going to use a retired color, Island Indigo, Basic Gray, and Smoky Slate. So with my basic gray, I'm going to stamp this branch with the berries. Put this up really well. And I'm going to stamp this at an angle, like so. Just hold it for a moment. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in the outline of my bird. And I'm going to ink that up in the basic gray as well. And I'm going to stamp this, see, right about there. Okay, I did want to have him come down a little bit, but my stamp already kind of stuck to the paper, so I couldn't move it. Okay, and then, let's see, then there's this piece here. This piece goes in this area here where the eye is. So I'm going to ink that up in my basic gray. And I'll bring this down a little bit so I can line this up. And let's see, go right here. Okay. And then we're done with our basic gray, so let me close that up. Now I'm going to bring in my Smoky Slate. And let's see, Smoky Slate. So this stamp here, this is the filler for the beak. And let's see, line this up. Okay. And then, I'm missing a marker here. Let's see, my dark Smoky Slate blend. I'm going to use that and I'm going to color in the branch. So, okay, and then I'm going to close this up. I'm done with this color. And I'm going to bring in my Island Indigo. And I'm going to ink up my bird. This is the filler part for the bird. Let's see how it inks because I had to re-ink this ink pad. Just want to see how it inks up. Okay. And then I'm going to attempt to line this up. And hopefully we got it lined up. Okay, that's not bad at all. And then there's this stamp that has the berries. Now these line up with the dots on, with the berries that are on this branch. So again, I'm going to bring it towards me so I can see through and line these up. Looks like it may be off a little bit. Yeah, just a bit. Okay, so I'm going to close this up. And I'm going to adhere this basic white piece to my Coastal Cabana. I'm just going to center that in this piece. And close up the glue. And then I'm going to bring in my dimensionals and I'm going to add some to the back of this piece. Okay, and then I'm going to center this onto my card base, like so. And then I'm going to bring in my festive pearls. These are currently in our annual catalog. And I'm going to take 3 of these silver ones, and I'm just going to add them in a line off to the right hand side. Move that over just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my Stella, and I'm just going to add a little bit onto these berries. Now the Stella is kind of pulling some of this Island Indigo ink, so it's going to fill in some of these berries. Okay, so that is our first card. On to our second. Okay, so for my second card, we are going to do a card with an owl on it. And I'll be using the Still Night Clear Mountain stamp set. And there's the owl that we'll be using. So for this card, I have a piece of soft suede. This measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have a 5.25 by 4-inch piece of basic black. I have a 5 1/8 by 3 7/8 of crumb cake. I have a 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch scrap piece of basic white, and then I have a 3.5 by 3.5 inch scrap piece of basic white. So to start off, I'm going to fold and burnish my card base. Okay, and I'm going to set that aside. And then my basic black, this will layer on top of that card base. For the crumb cake piece, I'm going to emboss that with the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it aside. I'm going to do all of my coloring and embossing and die cutting all at the same time. So I'm going to set that aside. Now for my piece of basic black, I'm also going to use these 2 dies, and they come from the Stylish Shapes dies. This is currently in our annual catalog. So I'm going to use these 2 circles. So for the larger one, I'm going to die cut the piece of the basic black. So I'll put that aside. And then on this piece, I'm going to die cut it with this one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp my owl first. And I didn't mount that on the block yet. So let me go ahead and do that. And I'm going to bring in my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And I'm going to ink up my owl. So for Saturday's video, there is an owl bundle. It's called Winter Owls. That's in our current holiday mini catalog. Now that catalog is going to be retiring in a few days. I think it's either January 3rd or January 4th. That's the last day for that catalog. And at the moment, as far as I know, the Winter Owls stamp set along with the coordinating dies are still available, but I did notice that the dies were on low inventory. Okay, so I had stamped my owl. Now for the owl, I'm going to color him in using our bronze and ivory Stampin' Blend, my dark and light Crumb Cake, and my light Daffodil Delight. So this is the part that I'm going to speed up. I'm going to color this. I'm going to die cut it with that. I'm going to die cut my black circle, and I'm going to emboss this piece of Crumb Cake. So I will be right back. Okay, so let me bring in my pieces. So with my Crumb Cake piece, I'm going to adhere that to that piece of basic black. We'll center that, and there'll just be a really small border around the Crumb Cake piece. And then I'll go ahead and I'll adhere this piece down to my card base. Like this. Okay, and I'll close this up for the moment. Now, on the piece that has my owl on it, when I use this this post-it tape, because it was a new piece, I tried to get some of the sticky off of it, but it did leave a little bit, so I'm just going to bring in my adhesive eraser just to remove that little bit of adhesive. Okay. And then I'm going to take this piece, like there's a little bit more on there, and I'm going to glue this down to my basic black stitch circle. I'm going to try and center that, like so. I love owls. Okay, and then I think we're done with our glue. And then I'm going to bring in my dimensionals, and I'm going to add some to the back of this. And then I'm going to center that on my card base, like so. And then I am going to bring in my glue dots, and I'm going to add 2 of them, like right over on the left side, the upper left side of this circle. Make sure they're pressed down. Remove those backings. And then I'm going to bring in my linen thread, and I'm going to create a double bow. Okay, usually I don't have issues with tying a bow with the linen thread, but it's giving me a hard time today. Okay, so we don't need our loops really big. Okay, and then I'm going to stick that right into those glue dots. Okay, and then I'm going to trim the tails of my bow. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my rustic metallic adhesive back dots. These are currently in our annual catalog. So I'm going to add 3 of these to my card base. Like so. And then one more step, I'm going to bring in my Wink of Stella again. And I'm going to add some onto my owl. I find that when I use the Wink of Stella over what I've colored with my Stampin' Blend markers, it seems to really make the colors pop a little bit more. Okay, so that is our second card. On to our third. Okay, so for my third card, I'm going to be using the Toile Christmas Cling Stamp Set. And there's our Cardinal. And I'll also be using the Coordinating Christmas Cardinal set of dies. So for my cardstock and paper pieces, I have a piece of crumb cake. This measures 8.5 by 5.5 and scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of cherry cobbler that measures 5 by 3 3/4. I have a piece of the Toile Tidings DSP. This measures 4 7/8 by 3 5/8. And this is the pack of paper. On one side, it's real red with the very vanilla. And then on the other side, it's the same design, but with garden green and very vanilla. Yeah. Toile Tidings Designer Series paper, garden green, real red, and very vanilla. So we're using a piece of that. And then I have a piece, this is a scrap piece of very vanilla. This measures 5 by 2.5. Now for this piece, I'm going to use that to stamp my cardinal on. So I'll put that aside. And then I have another scrap piece. This measures 5.5 by 2.5. And that I'm going to stamp this branch onto that. And then I have, what's this size? This one's a 2.25 by 2.25 inch scrap of Very Vanilla. And that's going to be for my greeting that says, "For you with love." Okay, so I'm going to start off with folding and burnishing my card base. Okay, and then I'm going to set that aside. So for all of my stamping, I'm going to use my early espresso ink. So I'm going to stamp my Cardinal. Let's bring the ink pad to the stamp. It'll be a little bit easier since the image is a little bit larger. And I'm going to stamp that on this piece. Just going to hold it there for a moment so the ink transfers. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp this branch piece that has some berries and leaves on it. And I will stamp that right here. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp my greeting in the center of this smaller Very Vanilla piece. And I'm just going to stamp that in the center. Okay. Then, okay, so I think at this point, I'm about to the part where I'm going to do some coloring stuff. So for this greeting, I'm going to use my 1 3/8 inch scallop circle punch. And I'm going to punch this out, but I'm going to have my greeting up more towards the top because I'm going to embellish towards the bottom of it. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, this is going to be part of the speeding up. So I'm going to color these images in, and I'm going to use my light cherry cobbler, my light mossy meadow. Which one is this one? This is the deep number 200 and the dark pumpkin pie. I'm going to use these to color in both my Cardinal and this branch here. Then what I'm going to do after I color it, I'm going to die cut those pieces with their coordinating dies. Now after I color these and die cut these pieces, I'm going to bring in my early espresso ink, and I have a blending brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to distress these pieces so you don't really have that really bright, very vanilla that's going to show from the edging of the die cut. And then I'm also going to brush some of the early espresso ink over on this. So we're just going to kind of tone down the brightness of the Very Vanilla and the real red. And then I'm also going to take a little bit of that ink and I'll brush some of that on this punched out piece as well. So I will be right back. so let me bring in my pieces. So by doing the early espresso ink on it, it did distress it some, so I kind of like that look. So for this piece here, I'm going to bring in my adhesive and I'm going to attach this to my cherry cobbler layer. I'm going to center that. And it'll just be a really small border. Okay. And actually, let me bring this in and flip it over to press it down. Because I already got ink all over my fingers, so let's not put more on there. Okay. And then I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to glue it down to my card base. Place that right there. And I'll bring this in again. The card base isn't folded straight. Okay. And then for my little greeting piece, I'm going to add some glue to the back of this. And I'm going to add this down in the lower right hand corner. That right there. Okay. And one of the things I'm going to do before I adhere those pieces, I'm going to bring in these embellishments. These are the Toile Tidings glitter enamel dots. These were actually part of the suite of products from the paper and the stamp and dies that I have used. So for these are real red, and since everything looks more cherry cobbler now, I'm going to bring in my light cherry cobbler blend, and I'm going to color, let's see, one of these larger ones. I'm just going to make this a little bit darker. And then I'm going to color two of these smaller ones. Okay. And we'll give that a moment to dry. Put that aside. So then for this piece, I'm going to bring in my mini dimensionals and my take your pick tool. And I'm going to add some of these to the areas where there's berries and leaves. So this part of this branch will be popped up, and then the base of this branch will be glued down. So we're going to add a little bit of dimension to this piece. Okay. And I'm going to remove backings off of these. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my Cardinal in, and I'm just going to place him right here. And then I'm going to add a little bit of glue just to the base of this branch. Okay. And then I'm going to place this at an angle. Want to make sure that I'm going to give myself enough room to place things. So I'm going to press that down. So I have the dimension of where the leaves are. And then this part is flat down to the card base. Okay, and then for my cardinal, I'm going to bring in my larger dimensionals. I'm going to add some to the back of him. Okay. I love cardinals. This room that I'm in, this is my studio / office. And so every day well, Monday through Friday anyway, when I'm working and I'm sitting at my computer, I'm right there in front of the window. And there's kind of like this brushy area back there, and it's always loaded with so many cardinals and blue jays and squirrels, and I love it. Okay, so I'm just going to place him on top of that, and then let's see what's next. Let me bring in these embellishments, and I'm going to add my larger one in the middle, right there. And then I'm going to take my smaller ones and I'm going to put it on either side of that larger one. Like so. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in my Winkostella again, and I'm going to add some to these berries. Okay. So that is our third card. So let me move this out of the way and let me bring in the other two that we did. So this was our first card. This was our blue jay. And then we did our owl. And then our cardinal. So I hope you like these projects. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It does help me in growing my channel. So we are coming up to the end of the year. So for Saturday, I will be featuring another owl set. I will be featuring the winter owls. So there's coordinating dies that go along with it. This is currently in our holiday mini catalog. Now, the last time I checked, the dies to this bundle are on low inventory. So if this looks like a set that you would like, then, you may want to visit the online store, the Stampin' Up! Online store, to pick up this before it's gone. I believe the catalog is good until the 3rd. Let me see. I got my catalog right here. It is good until January 3rd. So everything in here will be either retired or it'll be sold out by that date. So that'll be next Saturday's video for Step It Up Saturday. And then I will have on New Year's Day actually, I will have 3 projects and they're going to feature various stamp sets and dies that I have that are they're more geared for for New Year's. And then there will also be on the 1st another Christmas card inspiration. Even though we just got done with Christmas, I'm still going to do those videos with 2 fairly simple cards that you can mass produce if you want to create your own Christmas cards throughout the year. So I thank you again for joining me. And again, if you like the projects that we made, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. So until then, have a blessed one, everyone. Bye bye.